All right. So in this class, I'm going to be teaching authorization, which is called role-based access. Role-based access. So basically, this is how I want to map. This is how I want to map it. So uh, let's say we are going to have which is called admin, admin of every task. So let's say this our task management is for a company. Now we have the users, which could be the developers. So we have guests also. So now, admin should be the only one that can set a task. Admin should be the only one that can create a task. And developer should be the only one, developer which could be what? Users now, or authenticated users, or let me just call them developers. Now, admin should only be able to do what? Should be only be able to create, delete, and they should be able to create and delete. Yeah. But now, developers should be able to do what? They should be able to also delete. They should also be able to no. They should also be able to create tags. They should also be able to create tags and what get tags and uh, get all tags. Yeah, so they should also be able to create get and what update tags. So can you see that? So they should be able to create, get, and update tags. So admin should also be able to create, delete, and update, and also get. So can you see that? They should also be able to also get. So how do we implement this now? So every user will have a role. So there's something called role. So every user is basically going to have a role. So we are going to rewrite our user. So we are going to have something like role. So it's going to be of type, I think, string. Then it's going to be an enum. So enum are kind of constants that are used in JavaScript. Like you have some defined constant you want to use. Something like for your rules now, you want it to only be uh, user or developer. Or let me just call it. You want it to only be what developer and admin. So that's why we use enum enumerators. So so we are going to define, let's call it developer, and we have admin. So the default, in case none is created, so the default is going to be what? Developer for every new user. So that we create. So so when we want to sign, so now if I create a new user, uh, if I do not pass this row, if I don't pass this row, the default will be developer. So I'll go to my auth validator. So I'll get the row. Uh, Let it just be a string. I think there's something like yeah, the only valid one should be it should be what developer and what admin. And it should be optional too, because on the default it could be what developer. So now I have this. So now, mm, so now every user by default will be a developer. So let me create it. Let's create a user. So let's register a user. So let's create this user. Let's come here. Let's check this. So we have three users for now, and those three users don't even have roles. So let's create a new user. So this user is created with the role of what? Developer. So if I refresh this, now that user is created with the role of developer. So I want to create a new user, but I want to set the role to be what? The role to be admin. So I want to say something like so can you see that this user role is what? Admin. And if I refresh here, you see that the role is what? Amara and this person's role is what? Admin. So what do we need to do next? So the next thing we need to do is when the user is authenticated, we need to have a way of like checking for the role of that user. So you see inside this controller, where is it? Alt controller, yeah. Inside our login, when we are trying to generate that token, right? So instead of passing email alone, we need to pass role. So the most important thing to pass now is role. So we need to pass role. So we remove all this comment I made. So we need to pass role. So now passing role inside our payload will help us to what? To to check, to implement a middleware that actually checks. So I can say something like so I can define a new middleware that checks. I can say row middleware. So I can define a middleware that basically returns. I can define a middleware. So this middleware will be a function that will take in the allowed row for that endpoint. So now it will return a middleware. It's a function that takes in and allowed rows for that endpoint that will return a middleware. So we could say something like authorize or row middleware or authorize user, authorize row. So I could spread the row, I think, yeah. So I could spread the row. So basically I will now return what? A function. I think, yeah. So I return a function. So this function now is the middleware. But now I'm using this to what? To get the rows. So that I can be able to do something like authorize row. So I could specify the row, something like I can say something like this is only applicable for what? Developer, or this is only applicable for both developer and admin, or only what? Or only admin. So can you see that? So I cannot say what? If the rows, I think, yeah. So if the rows, if it does not include what? Request dot user dot what? Row. Now remember that we are passing row here instead of the email. So how do we get this request dot user dot row? Now you must have authenticated the user already before moving to this next middleware. So we are going to ensure that. So this is basically what's going to happen. So using that role based using that role based middleware. So immediately we authenticate the user, showing that the user is already authenticated using this middleware here. Now you have another middleware. You can have multiple middlewares. So this one will now be the role middleware. So you've already authenticated the user and passed in what? You set the payload to the request. So that payload now has what? That user role. So in this user role, we need to check if that user is actually allowed to make use of what? Is actually allowed to access that endpoint. So that's basically what's happening. So we need to check if that row, if the rows, that is what we spread here, that is all this row here, if it includes what? The request, the user's role actually. So if it does not include it, we are going to return the response and status. So you are forbidden actually. So 403 is forbidden. So you are not actually allowed. So you can say so let's just say access denied again. you are not allowed to perform this this you are not allowed to access this endpoint. So can you see that? So you are not allowed to access this endpoint. So basically, so we have returned actually. This is a very short way of actually doing this instead of coming here and doing return. Yeah, that's nice. So I think my brain skipped that. So mm, it's now I just even remember. So instead of going back to change, don't no, there's no issue. So there's no issue actually. So in case it contains that row, I will just do next. If it contains that row, I'm just going to do next. So what do I need to do next? I need to export default authorize row. So can you see that? Export default authorize row. So if I want to implement that, so I'll go to my what? So here now, I said admin should be able to do what? Create, delete, update, and get. So let's go to our let's go to our router. Can you see? So admin should be able to create, delete, update, and do all these gets. So now for this get, we authorize what? Authorize row. Remember that this before accessing this endpoint, you are already what? You are already where is it? Before accessing this endpoint, you are already authenticated using this middleware. So now doing now using this another middleware that will now check. So we now say that this is only available for admin and developer, and create tax is also available for admin and developer too. So create tax is also available for admin and developer too. Update tax is also available for admin and developer too. But now uh, delete tax is only available for what? For who? For developer. So delete tax is only available for developer. So now admin should also be able to what? To see all the old tax, not only his or her tax. Not only his or her tax. So we need to define another endpoint for that. Something like router does get, they will say something like admin. So you should be able to get admin, um, get all tax. So now you define this admin so that you will get all tax without what? And the only person that can access this is what? The only person that should be able to access this is your admin. So can you see that? So the only person that should be able to access this endpoint should be your admin. So we can quickly do that. So I can do something like tax dot controller. Please make sure you are following. So get tax. So come here and paste it here. So we say get all tax. Now we don't need to find tax by what? We don't need to find tax by the user. Since you are the admin, you want to get all the tax. So can you see that? So now we are able to successfully implement that. So get all tax. So we have imported. So only the admin should be able to what? Get all the whole tax. But now we don't even need to even make the admin have access to that. Something like this is for what? This is for only slash tax. So but this is for slash tax slash admin. Now this will get all the whole tax, but this one will get only a developer's tax. So let's put this into practice. So let's see how our server is running. I said get all tax has been declared. So define it twice. So it's running now. So it's running now. So so I defined two user, Amara and who, and so Amara is an admin. So I need to log in as Amara. So I need to log in as Amara. If I log in as Amara, I should be able to get audio user, audio tags. So if I log in as Amara and I want to get all tags, let's just get all tags slash what admin. Now for our authorization, we are going to put it where in bearer token. So we're going to place it here, and so can you see that we have access to audio tags? Can you see? So it's not restricted to that particular user, but only the admin can have access to it. So let's log who out. So let's log Amara out and log in as who. Let's log in as who is here? Henry. So Henry has a role of what developer. So I can now say something like, so if I log in and I copy this access token, I hope you are paying attention. Oh, so if I paste this here, I should not be allowed. So can you see that I'm denied access because I don't have the admin role. So can you see? So it's basically working very well now. So that's basically all about move-based access control. So that's all for this class. So the next module, which will basically be the end. So we are going to be deploying our server to. We are going to be deploying towards. We are going to be deploying online and making use of our server. So thank you very much.